My name is Avery Calder, 32 years old. Dad turned 60 and threw himself a dinner he insisted wasn't a party. He hates the word party. Too messy, too joyful. This was a dinner, formal, curated to within an inch of breathing. Private room, candles, a jazz trio in the corner, playing the kind of songs that don't interrupt anyone's self-regard. Our last name was printed at the top of the menus like we were a dynasty instead of three people who had gotten very good at misremembering what help looks like. I came a little late, not to make a point, just because points had never helped me in this family. The table was already loud with easy admiration when I walked in. Becca glanced at her phone like I was the notification she didn't need. Dad didn't look up. Mom gave me a small, lazy wave that would have fit better if I'd been holding a tray. There were about 12 of us. Cousins, aunts, two women I didn't recognize but understood immediately. You bring extras to applaud. I answered the usual questions about when I'd settle down and smiled through the semi-professional compliments of Melanie, my younger sister, the golden child. She arrived in a dress that documented her value per hemline, Tyler beside her, and two sparkling children who looked like a holiday catalog. She always looks so put together, doesn't she? Our cousin Jenna said, generously loud. I poured more wine and pretended the music was interesting. Appetizers gave way to the warm-up round of small talk, where Tyler explained refinancing like he'd personally invented interest rates. Melanie brushed invisible lint from her lap, the way some people exhale. Every flick said effortless. I nodded, listened, did what I always do. Fit myself around people who like me better when they forget I take up space. Dad stood, tapped his glass, with the practiced rhythm of a man who has learned how to hush a room without raising his voice. He smiled. He always smiles before he says something that lands like a fist wrapped in a napkin. He thanked Mom, thanked the life he built. Then he turned toward Melanie, lifted his glass, and said, "Your sister's the only one who actually helps this family." Applause. Real, unironic applause. Aunt Linda clapped, like she'd just witnessed a tenor hit the note. Tyler leaned back so the light could find him. Melanie performed a surprise so perfect it had clearly been practiced. Hand to chest, chin tilted, an actress pretending to be caught off guard by the line she wrote. I didn't move. I smiled. I let the clapping ring out and soften and land. Then, when the room found silence again, I stood. I raised my glass. Then she won't need the $4,400 I send every month for her kids' school. Silence detonated and then thickened. I swear the jazz trio missed a beat. A waiter froze halfway through pouring water. The room felt like a photograph. I kept my voice even, like I was commenting on the wine. Tuition, tutorings, aftercare. The robotics camp last July. The one she posted about like they paid for it. 2 years straight. I sat down. I took a sip. Nobody clapped that time. Melanie's face went still in that way faces do when the software crashes. Tyler opened his mouth, closed it, recalculated. Mom's lips parted and never found words. Dad stared as if he'd heard a sound he couldn't place. I did not follow up. I didn't list the late-night wire transfers or the Saturdays I spent choosing sneakers in the school colors because the catalog was 2 clicks too many for someone else. I didn't mention the field trips I quietly covered, or the dentist bill that arrived the same week as the birthday party I also paid for. I finished my meal. I made polite conversation with Jenna about her new apartment and left before dessert. I didn't go straight home. I checked into a hotel downtown and sat alone at the bar, letting some game I don't follow throw noise over my thoughts. When I finally turned my phone back on, there were 17 missed calls. Becca 8 times, Mom 4, the rest from numbers that suddenly remembered me now that a faucet had turned off. 1 text from Antara, "You okay?" and 1 from someone I wasn't ready to think about. I slid the phone face down and watched the closed captions crawl across a screen full of strangers. Morning arrived clean. My kitchen smelled like coffee and nobody else's expectations. I opened my laptop and wrote a single email to my accountant. Subject: terminate recurring transfers. The reply came back within the hour. 1 word: done. I stared at the word longer than it deserved. It looked small for what it carried. I expected thunder. Instead, I got fog. Not a single message from Melanie. Not a single apology. Just a post on her feed. Fall leaves, matching jackets, #grateful, and a caption that read, Private blessings, not public announcements. I almost laughed. It turns out some announcements are only public when you're paying for the microphone. By the second evening, the silence felt tactical. That's when Antara knocked. Full makeup, coat still buttoned, a bakery box, like a hall pass. I don't want to pick sides, she said, which is what people say when they already picked. But people are calling me. I need to know what actually happened. I let her in because I wanted to hear the version of me currently touring our relatives' group chats. She sat at my table and cut a pastry into perfect halves like the conversation might require fractions. Your parents started floating this a few weeks ago, she said. That they were cutting the cord with you, that you were controlling, that you used money to hold things over them. Tonight was meant as a reclaiming. I waited. She lowered her voice like the walls could tattletale. They didn't think you'd actually shut anything off. Your mom called me last night crying. Not about what you said, about a hotel account she couldn't access for her post-birthday stay. She forgot you put that one under your name. I laughed once, sharp, not unkind. Relief is a strange taste. It's like rinsed metal. After she left, I opened a folder I'd been building and pretending I didn't need. Bank statements, screenshots, voicemails cataloged by date, politely labeled like a museum where only I could read the placards. Mom asking for rent just for this month, promising momentum. Dad slurring about a temporary second mortgage for a surprise he couldn't afford. Melanie texting me the kids' sizes at midnight, adding a heart-like punctuation. I wasn't going to post any of it. I wanted it organized. Truth doesn't need an audience. It needs a place to live. The house breathed with me for the first time in a year. The quiet wasn't empty. It was mine. Somewhere between the clicking kettle and the cooling cup, a thought surfaced and sat beside me like an old friend. No one thanks a ghost. I'd been haunting their lives politely, paying for light and then apologizing for standing near the switch. I finished my coffee and stood at the window. The street below looked ordinary. Somewhere soon, a domino would fall. A bill returned, a benefit revoked, a school administrator checking a ledger and noticing a vanished sponsor. People like my sister don't apologize. They regroup. I could feel it. An email I hadn't received yet, a knock that didn't belong to a friend, a box on a doormat with my handwriting inside it in someone else's hand. I wasn't afraid of any of it. I was simply awake. Silence is not absence. It's choreography. It tells everyone where to stand without saying a word. After the dinner, the family feed went glossy and benign. Melanie posted pumpkins and matching jackets, a caption about quiet gratitude. I scrolled past the photo twice before noticing the date stamp lined up exactly with the day my transfers stopped. Private blessings, indeed. I kept expecting a call, a tirade, a carefully weaponized tear. Nothing. The quiet thickened like fog over water. By Monday, it felt less like distance and more like a tactic. Let the target twitch from the stillness, then call it guilt. On Thursday evening, Melanie knocked. She didn't text first. She walked into my living room like the air owed her passage and didn't sit. Her hair was salon soft, her earrings new and bright. She looked like she'd rehearsed annoyance in the mirror until it felt like confidence. "So that's it?" she asked. No hello, no name. "That's it," I said. "You really needed to embarrass me like that?" "You embarrassed yourself when you let Dad say you were the only one who helps," I answered. "You didn't correct him." She opened her mouth, closed it. That tiny click of teeth is what denial sounds like when it changes outfits and tries again. "I didn't tell him to say that," she muttered. "You didn't stop him either." Her weight shifted from one heel to the other, like she couldn't decide if this was a scene or a sprint. "Fine, let it be that way," she said, and left as if I would hurry down the hall to stop her. I didn't. The post slowed after that, then stopped. Tyler's Facebook went dark. A grainy shot of two kids at a kitchen table appeared on Melanie's story a week later. #homeschool, #making it work. My stomach pinched, not for her, but for what children learn when adults choose performance over planning. 2 days later, a friend who works part-time at the school texted, "Did you hear?" She pulled them out. She added a sad face, and a heart-like empathy could round the corners of reality. I didn't answer. I was halfway through making a grocery list when another notification flashed. Jenna posted a photo from a neighborhood festival. In the background, off-center and unlit, stood Melanie in flats and a stretched t-shirt, no makeup, hair clawed up, looking at nothing. No Tyler. Listings started floating through the hometown rumor circuit next. Crazy market right now, someone commented, under a picture of a for sale sign planted in front of Melanie's house, the house that once had a dedicated highlight reel. 12 days after Dad's toast, I found her leaning against a car across from my office building. A hoodie zipped to her throat and oversized sunglasses hiding the kind of eyes that fail at pretending. She walked over without a greeting, the plea already assembled. "I just need help," she said. 1 month. Her voice wasn't sharp this time. It sounded tired in a way that might have broken me before, almost. She sold me the crisis. Tyler's hours got cut. The credit cards are maxed. The school won't hold their spots unpaid. The words came out like beads, smooth from use. "You mean you need the money," I said. Her hands fluttered. "We're behind. You didn't give us any warning." "I gave you 2 years." Her eyes flicked down. For a second, the performance slipped, and I saw the ledge beneath her. 1 month, she repeated softly. "I'll figure it out after that." "How?" I asked. She blinked. "We'll sell the dining table, maybe my ring, something." The truth is a narrow hallway. Most people can't stand how close its walls get. "You don't know what gratitude looks like," I said. Her mouth twitched as if a slap might be hiding in the syllables. She stared at me as if the word gratitude were a riddle I'd invented just to watch her fail. Then she turned, walked away, and left me in the parking lot with the echo of a door closing somewhere I couldn't see. That night, my inbox lit up with an email from the school. Subject line: confirmation of sponsorship, fall semester. "Hi, Ms. Calder. We're reaching out to confirm whether you'll be renewing tuition sponsorship for Madison and Jay for the upcoming semester. We received word from the family that you're continuing the arrangement and would like to verify before proceeding with re-enrollment." I read it twice, 3 times. The twist wasn't that she lied. It was that she used my name like a credit card that never declines. I didn't respond. I waited. I wanted to see where the script went next. It went to Tyler, calling from a number I didn't recognize. Respect tried on like a suit that didn't fit. "Avery," he began, careful. "She's under a lot of pressure. The kids are confused. She told them you'd agreed to help again. They think they're going back to school." "Why would she tell them that?" I asked. He exhaled the sigh of a man who has always had someone else to hand the bag to. "You don't get it. They call you their second mom." The phrase sat between us, deliberate and heavy. Not aunt, not sister, second mom. A title as convenient as it was cruel. I didn't answer. I hung up. Sometimes refusal is the only honest sentence. In the morning, I wrote the school. "I will not be sponsoring Madison and Jay moving forward. Any statements to the contrary are false. Please direct all communication to their parents." I pressed send, then blocked Tyler, then Melanie. I stared at my phone for a minute, waiting for relief to arrive in some dramatic form. It didn't. It showed up quietly, like a room deciding to stop echoing. 3 days later, a white box sat on my doorstep. No postage, no return address. Inside, a pair of earrings I hadn't seen in months. Expensive, missing. On top, a torn sheet from one of my journals, a page I recognized for the indented places where my pen had pressed too hard months ago when I'd written about work. The note was short. "You left these at the lake house last summer. Thought you'd want them back." The handwriting wasn't hers. It was careful and clumsy at once, the way children write when they hold their breath and concentrate. She'd made one of her kids write it, to cover the theft, to soften the return, to teach a lesson neither of them should ever learn. I sat on the floor with the box in my lap and tried to decide between screaming and laughing. Neither fit. This wasn't just desperation. It was rot, boundary rot. The kind that doesn't care which drawers it opens or which hands it uses to do it. I put the earrings back in the box and slid it into the closet. I haven't touched it since. The school's online directory updated that night. Their names were gone. I refreshed twice. Still gone. As if the building had swallowed the last 2 years and left a clean, institutional silence behind. On cue, an email from Dad landed in my inbox. Subject: "Call me, please." He never emails. He writes texts like requests and leaves voicemails like verdicts. Email meant someone had rehearsed him. I waited 24 hours before answering, not to punish him, but to decide who I wanted to be when I walked into whatever he was staging. Not emotional, not explosive, strategic. When I finally called, he didn't say hello. Avery, he said, voice already set to sensible. We need you to come by the house. We all do. We? I asked. He didn't answer that part. I drove over at dusk, the kind of light that knows how to make rooms look honest. I stepped into a living room, arranged like an intervention scene. Mom and Dad on the couch, Tyler stiff in an armchair, Melanie perched with her arms crossed, like a person determined to look like someone else had written her lines. Mom put on her soft face, the one she uses to pad hard news. Dad spoke first. This isn't about the past, he said. What's done is done. Translation. No accountability today. He talked about the kids, disrupted routines, missed friends, emotional well-being. We're not asking you to cover everything again, he said. Just a couple thousand to hold their spots until Tyler's hours stabilize. We'll pay you back. I looked at Melanie. She studied the rug like it had answers. Has anyone here ever thanked me for what I already gave? I asked. Silence served itself. Then Melanie said the line she always thinks is absolution. We didn't ask you to. I almost laughed. The math of entitlement is simple. If they never asked, then you never gave. And if you never gave, then nothing is owed, least of all gratitude. That's exactly why we're here, I said, turning to leave. Dad stood. For the first time in years, he looked directly at me and let the performance go. I'm sorry, he said. He said it once. He didn't dress it up, didn't blame, didn't barter. I'm sorry for how I treated you, for believing her version of things, for letting a lie feel easier than a truth you kept paying for. He reached into his pocket and handed me a check. From us. We're not expecting you to do this alone anymore, but please, help them through this patch. I didn't take the check. 2 months, I said, paid directly to the school. Not to you, not to her, no extensions, no quiet second wave. After that, you figure it out. Dad nodded. Tyler nodded in delayed unison. Mom looked tired in a way I hadn't seen before, the kind of tired that can't be solved with a nap. Melanie said nothing. I left without hugging anyone. In the car, my hands shook, not from anger, but because invisible weights, once lifted, make your body remember what it's like to be lighter. At home, I opened my laptop and set up the payment portal for the school. 2 months, wired directly. I CC'd the billing office and Dad. I typed no message. Numbers don't need commentary. I stared out the window until the glass had more of me than the room did. Somewhere inside the walls, a draft found a place to rest. Somewhere down the hall, the white box waited in the closet with the earrings inside and a torn journal page on top. A small, cruel monument to the lengths people go to avoid admitting they're standing at the edge of their own choices. When my phone buzzed, I didn't check it. I didn't need to know who wanted a word when the only word left was boundary. This wasn't mercy. It wasn't surrender. It was a bridge for 2 months laid down for children who didn't pick the road. After that, they could learn to build their own. 3 weeks passed before I heard from anyone again. Not a call, not a text, just the occasional ripple of family gossip making its way through people who couldn't mind their own silence. Then, on a Friday afternoon, Mom emailed. She never emailed. Subject line, Sunday dinner. No details, no smiley faces, no heart emojis, just an invitation that read more like a summons. I knew what it was before I showed up. The staging, the script, the way she'd sit me on one side of the room and mediate, as if she weren't the one directing the play. Still, I went. Sometimes it's better to walk into the storm than wait for it to find your address. When I pulled up to the house, every light inside was on. From the driveway, it looked like someone was trying to convince the neighbors they were fine. I stepped through the door, and there it was. The tableau I'd already pictured. Dad on the sofa, hands clasped. Mom beside him with that polished look of concern she saves for family photos and hospital waiting rooms. Tyler perched on the edge of the recliner, tie still on like he wanted to look respectable while begging. And Melanie, arms crossed, chin lifted, pretending she wasn't terrified I'd say no. No one smiled. Avery, Dad started, thank you for coming. His tone was calm, measured, like a teacher addressing the student he'd already decided was wrong. This isn't about the past, he said. What's done is done. We just need to talk about the kids. There it was, the hook baited and glinting. He went on about how they'd been struggling. New school, new routine, too many changes. How they missed their friends. How this wasn't their fault. Mom added, They're sensitive. It's been hard on them emotionally. I stayed standing. And? Dad took a slow breath. We're not asking you to fix everything. Just a couple thousand. Enough to hold their spots until Tyler's work situation improves. He looked at me the way people look at a bank manager. Not unkindly, just expectant. Mom reached out, patting the air like she was touching something invisible. We'll pay you back, sweetheart. I turned to Melanie. Have you ever thanked me for what I already gave? Her eyes flicked up, defensive. We didn't ask you to. I almost laughed. That line. The family motto dressed as justification. That's exactly the problem, I said. Then I turned to leave. But for once, Dad stood up. Avery, wait. I stopped. He looked older than I remembered. Not broken, just tired in a way I hadn't noticed before, like all the pretending had finally caught up with him. I'm sorry, he said. 2 words. Small, honest. No performance in them. He didn't try to defend, didn't add excuses, just said it like he'd been waiting years for his mouth to stop protecting everyone else. I'm sorry for believing her version of things, he said quietly, for letting her shine while you paid for the spotlight. I didn't realize how deep it went. I should have. For a moment, the room actually breathed. Even Mom's face softened, just a flicker. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a check. It's from us. We're not expecting you to do this alone anymore, but please, help them through this patch, just this once. The paper trembled between his fingers. I didn't take it. 2 months, I said finally. Paid directly to the school. Not to you, not to her. 2 months, and then you're done. No extensions. He nodded immediately. Relief flooded his shoulders. Mom exhaled like she'd been holding her breath since the door opened. Tyler nodded too, though his eyes were fixed on the floor. Melanie just stared at the rug like she was reading a script she no longer believed in. When I left, the house looked smaller than it ever had. That night, I added my laptop, found the school's billing portal, and wired the funds directly. 2 months. Tuition, and nothing more. I CC'd Dad and the finance office. No note, no explanation, just the confirmation number. It was the cleanest act of generosity I'd ever performed, one that came without manipulation on either end. And for a brief second, it almost felt good. Almost, because part of me knew what was coming next. With people like Melanie, gratitude isn't closure, it's a cue for the next request. Still, I waited. Days passed. No call, no thank you, not even a receipt from the school. Then, a week later, she appeared again. No call first, no warning, just her standing at my door like we'd never stopped doing this dance. Hair messy, dark circles under her eyes, hoodie zipped halfway, holding her phone with both hands like it might keep her upright. Can I come in? She asked. I should have said no. I didn't. She stood in my living room, eyes darting like she was checking for witnesses. I just wanted to say thank you, she said. The words came too quickly, too polished. You've done more for my family than I ever admitted. I was wrong. I'm grateful. Every sentence sounded like it had been rehearsed. Too neat. Too tidy. She went on, I didn't mean for it to get like this. I panicked. I was trying to hold everything together. Her hands trembled, but the pauses didn't match the words. It was like she was reciting something someone else had told her to say. And then I realized she was. The apology had all the fingerprints of Mom's coaching. The soft tone, the we all make mistakes phrasing, the practiced humility that ends in self-praise. I could almost hear Mom feeding her the lines. Own it just enough to sound sincere. Make Avery feel safe again. She said, I know I should have told the truth. She said, I let pride get in the way. She said, I'm truly sorry. But none of it was hers. I didn't interrupt. I just listened, nodded, let her finish the script. When she was done, she gave a little exhale like she'd just completed a performance review. Good luck, I said. Not you're forgiven. Not we're okay. Just good luck. Her face fell in a way that almost made me feel something, but not enough to take it back. She left quietly. The door clicked shut, and the quiet that followed wasn't heavy this time. It was clean. Later that night, I sat at my desk, checked my email, and saw the confirmation from the school. 2 months covered. I stared at the numbers and felt nothing. No pride, no anger, just completion. The next morning, I started looking at flights for a solo weekend trip to the coast. I hadn't traveled in years without a family emergency dictating the destination. For once, the only person whose life my money was funding was my own. It's strange how peace sneaks in after chaos, not loud or triumphant, just steady. I woke up one morning and realized there'd been no calls, no begging, no carefully worded guilt trips for over 3 weeks. My account stayed untouched. My mind quieted for the first time in years. Then Mom called. She wanted me to come for her birthday dinner. Just family, she said, like that phrase still meant something comforting. I hesitated. She promised it would be low-key. Even Melanie might stop by, she added softly, but she won't stay long. That was the lie that got me in the car. When I walked into the house, the smell of apple pie and nostalgia hit first, and there she was. Melanie, in the kitchen, hair brushed, sleeves rolled up, cutting pie beside Mom like she belonged there, like the last year had been a bad dream no one wanted to discuss. She turned, offered me a plate, and said, "Hi." Just that. One syllable, neutral and civil. Dinner went smoothly. Too smoothly. Small talk replaced accusation. The kids stopped by for hugs, shy but smiling. Tyler wasn't there. Working late, Mom said, though no one believed it. It was strange watching everyone act normal, pretending the house wasn't still echoing from everything that had been said inside it. After dessert, while everyone else gathered coats and leftovers, Melanie walked over. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. We stepped out to the front porch. The evening was mild, the air humming with crickets and whatever honesty was about to surface. She didn't waste time. "Thank you," she said, "for helping, for everything." I didn't answer. She looked down at the railing, tracing a groove with her thumb. "I should have told everyone the truth, what you actually did, but I didn't. Because, well, I didn't want to be the one who failed." That landed somewhere between confession and apology. Then she added, almost like she was admitting a crime, "Mom told me if I didn't apologize properly, she was going to tell the whole family herself. Everything." I felt my stomach tighten. So the first apology, the polished one, hadn't just been coached. It had been threatened. Melanie gave a small laugh, not from humor, but from the absurdity of finally saying it aloud. "But this part," she said, "this is just me. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know I'm not proud of how I handled it." I nodded slowly. I didn't fill the silence for her. I'd learned that some people only hear themselves when no one else rescues the conversation. Then she said something that caught me completely off guard. "The kids still ask about you," she murmured. "They think you're the one who got them back into school." I looked at her sharply. "I didn't correct them," she added quickly. "You're a better example than I am right now." The wind shifted, carrying the faint sound of laughter from inside. For once, Melanie didn't sound defensive. She just sounded tired. Human. "They're lucky to have someone in the family who cares about the truth," I said finally. "Maybe next time that can be you." She didn't argue. She just nodded, eyes glassy but clear. Then she whispered, "Maybe it will." We stood there a moment longer, neither of us knowing how to end it. Eventually, she turned back toward the door. "Good night, Avery," she said quietly. "Good night," I replied. Inside, Mom caught my eye from across the living room, the kind of look that asked if the fire had finally gone out. Maybe it had. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived in the mail, a birthday card from Dad. No note, no explanation. Just a folded check inside for the full amount I'd paid to the school. At the bottom of the card, his signature. No message. I deposited it and didn't mention it to anyone. The family didn't ask questions either. They didn't need to. The silence that followed wasn't avoidance anymore, it was understanding. Months went by quietly. No emergencies. No, just one favor. No late-night texts about tuition or mortgages or doctor bills. Every so often, I'd scroll past a photo of the kids on my feed, a science fair ribbon, a birthday cake, and my heart would pinch just slightly, but not painfully, more like memory stretching. Melanie and I didn't talk much. At holidays, we exchanged nods and one-word greetings. Hey. Hi. No pretending, no performance. Just distance with boundaries. Something solid, almost sacred. And the strangest part? It worked. She stopped asking. I stopped resenting. We both started living lives that didn't revolve around fixing or forgiving. For the first time, I didn't feel like the backup plan in my own family. I felt like my own person. One evening, months later, I was cleaning out my closet when I found the white box again. The one with the earrings and the note written in a child's hand. I sat cross-legged on the floor, opened it, and read the note again. The handwriting looked smaller than I remembered. Maybe because I'd grown since then. Not taller, but freer. I put the earrings on for the first time in years. They caught the light as I looked in the mirror. Sometimes forgiveness doesn't need words. Sometimes it's just the quiet decision to wear what was once stolen and let it shine anyway. I closed the closet, turned off the light, and whispered to no one in particular, "This time I'm keeping them."